Okay, getting back to this painting. The varnish on this painting has damaged it, unfortunately, and there have been attempts to clean it, which also damaged it. But particularly what's interesting, historically speaking, is the woman in the background who's taking care of her hair. It's been hypothesized, I don't know, and you can actually see this perhaps, that she may have been originally an African woman. Rembrandt has painted them previously. And then it's like somebody Europeanized her look at some point, and the quality of the painting of that portraiture in the background is just not what would be up to Rembrandt. So this painting has been tampered with because, one of the reasons is because the varnish had gotten so dark on it. And in order to try to salvage it, there have been a number of attempts to try to clean it. It's still an amazing work of art in its own right. And the varnish problem becomes even a bigger problem. I'm going to let the tourist take 1,000 pictures of this painting, so we'll go on to this one instead. Here is Hendrik Stoffels, which is one of his housekeepers that he fell in love with after his wife died. And this is a portrait that she did. I don't remember if she had children with this woman. There was another servant. She may have been the one that got him in trouble because she sued him for palimony, so to speak, and the church didn't look very favorably on that. And they punished her and punished him. He was harder to punish because he was, he was Rembrandt, but still, they punished them both. Now we'll get to this one. Now here is supposed to be the grand masterpiece of this museum, which is the Rembrandt Aristotle. This is not my favorite Rembrandt here, but the museum likes it. And when the Dutch had made an agreement with the Rijksmuseum, tried to make an agreement with the Met in order to transfer some paintings back and forth for exhibits, one of the ones they wanted in return was this painting, and the Met refused to let it go because they said it was too brittle to move. Of course, they moved it off the ceiling, off this wall, because they just redid these entire section here. But they refused to let it go. And you could see there is, I don't know if it's damage, it was just the varnish from the top of this. It's hard. The entire background is basically lost to the varnish. This is not the way they were intended by Rembrandt to look. They were supposed to be brighter and lighter. But the varnish just got darker and darker. You know, with the night watch, it was a daytime scene that they turned into a nighttime scene, which then they cleaned, and now it's back to being a daytime scene. And this is not much different, but I don't think they can clean this because they think it's too delicate, and they're probably right. Of course, that always reminds me of Girl with the Pearl Earring. Have you ever seen what that painting looks like before it was redone by the Martin House? You see like almost a third of the painting is cracked paint and gone. The rest of it, what you're looking at, is actually the genius of their curers, or the modern painters who are trying to fix it. So I don't know. I'm not an expert with regard to that. But the main thing that makes this painting famous is the expression on his face, which is supposed to be deep, contemplative thought, and a three-quarter portraiture that you see. And of course, the hands are, expressive and an integral part of the expression of this painting. The cloth also is, he's just great with the cloth. I mean, there's nothing that Rembrandt couldn't paint. It's just not my favorite. My favorite is the one with this, the Aphrodite with the silver shield. But it gets a lot of attention, this painting. Aristotle with a bust of Homer. All right, now we'll move on. We just did this one, so now we're going to move on to this portrait here. I don't remember seeing this fellow painted in any other painting. So this may have been a portrait that was perhaps paid for by the sitter, as opposed to some of the ones that aren't. It's a standard bearer, Flores Stoop, 1654. So this is relatively late in Rembrandt's career, and you can see here a mixture of his later techniques of thick line work with more thin line work. Well, I think it's interesting here, for whatever it is. You see his ability to do the jewels and the sash over and over and over again. And here you have the eyes, mixed eyes, and the feather. And a key component to these paintings is their condition. These ones at the Met suffer, I think, more problems than the ones that you might see overseas and at the Rijksmuseum. But look at this wood. This wood looks so real, this staff, which is some type of flag behind it. It's what's supposed to be a standard bearer, right? That's what he is. This might be somebody from the Night Watch painting. I don't know. But look at the wood. The wood looks so real. And when you get close to it, you wonder, how did he do that wood that makes it look so real? And you can see it break down and get more abstract as you get really close to it. So if you're painting this again, 6 to 8 inches from the painting, trying to paint it, you have to be brilliant enough to be able to understand what the painting is going to look like when you stand back, and in detail. And Rembrandt made no mistakes with this stuff. And I'm going to show you a little bit later on the other side of this gallery. There is a Rembrandt knockoff. That is simply not Rembrandt. And if you look at Rembrandt, that it's not Rembrandt because there's errors in it. Geometric errors. There's something just not right about the portraiture. It's not perfect. Here, you have two asymmetrical eyes, again, but they're right. They're, you recognize that as biologically right. I mean, there's nothing here that's wrong. I mean, and the nose is perfect. So, and that's true about every one of his faces. They are asymmetrical, but perfect. There's not a stroke, it feels like, in any Rembrandt painting that you look at where there's a stray brushstroke, without reason for being. Every stroke is right, and when you look closely at this wood, that's an example of it. When you look close, you can see that not every detail of this wood is painted, or that glove for that matter, right? But when you step back, it looks like a real piece of wood. And that's part of the miracle of Rembrandt. Let's continue on now. And this one, Woman in Pink. Let me just take a quick look at what he wrote here. Her forehead crisscrosses with jewels, and the center of this portrait displays pink or carnation, a symbol of love and marriage, etc. You can read this for yourself. This is actually a Benjamin Altman painting, which is fascinating, actually. And you can see the carnation there. And again, this painting suffers from being darkened by the varnish over the aging process. I'm sure that carnation must have been outstanding. perfectly bright red. I've seen other Rembrandts, and dull colors are not really what he does. You know, that is suffering from age. The hands look like some work was done, perhaps with that. You can see there's light. Now remember that there's no electrical light, so everything is natural light. So when Rembrandt drew a spotlight effect, I mean, it's completely from his imagination on the rose, or on the carnation, sorry, not a rose. Yeah. And then there's the portraiture, and again, asymmetrical eyes, but not perfectly symmetrical eyes, and the nose and the mouth, and it's all quite perfect. Here's this red, this rouge color, and there's a lot more broad line stroke here than there is which makes me think that this is probably an older, one of his later works. You don't see an age. I don't see a date on this. It says early 1660s. Okay, I'll buy that. That makes sense to me. Because by the late 1660s, he was doing very, very rough work, and it was. And you get a good example of that over at the Frick. You're not in Frick, it's the Met. All right, moving along. This portrait. Man sitting with glass. Well, this is glass, so you can't see it anymore. This portrait most likely predicts auctioneer Peter Haragov, who once handled sales of his famous portraitures.